very good evening to everyone who has joined today with us. And we hope everyone is feeling comfortable wherever you are, as we are ready to start off the fourth session of AI-driven pre-bootcamp brought to you by AI-driven Sri Lanka by IEEE Young Professionals. So far, we had sessions on introduction to artificial intelligence and machine learning, deep learning, and also applications of artificial intelligence, which was held last Saturday. In today's session, we are aiming to give you an insights into fields, big data and data science, which are rapidly growing and demanding with the current context of the modern day job market. And we hope you all are hyped up to get things started off to know about big data and data science. Please keep in mind to have your questions in store for the Q&A session that will commence after the session has concluded, and also add your questions in the Slido link that is shared in the chat shortly. Please ensure your mics are always muted and your videos remain off, as not to disturb the smooth flow of the event. So now I'm going to introduce the speaker for today's session. Delving in multiple fields is tough, but some are capable of mastering many vast fields, and none such more capable of such great achievements than Dr. Akshika Wijesundara. Currently a research associate in machine learning at King's College London, Dr. Akshika has previously worked as a lead data scientist in the growth hacking team of WSO2. And he is a computer science and engineering graduate of the University of McClure and has completed his PhD in the School of Computing and Communications at the Open University, United Kingdom. His primary research interests are machine learning, health informatics, privacy, and human-computer interaction. Prior to his PhD, he was a Google Summer of Code intern and a mentor. He also represented Google in Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, as a Google student ambassador and intern as a research engineering intern at the Augmented Human Lab of SUTD MIT International Design Center. Apart from his co-research work, Dr. Akshika founded the Sustainable Education Foundation, a non-profit organization to empower Sri Lankan students and the education system. So it's a pleasure to have you with us in this evening, and this session awaits your commencement of our fourth session of AI-driven Sri Lanka pre-bootcamp. Sir, the virtual stage is yours.
Right. Thank you, Sadaru, for that kind introduction. Awesome. I guess we can get started. I'll try and share my slide deck. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. So I think I don't have to give an introduction about myself. Some very nice introduction about my background. The topic is, big data and data science overall, but I think to better understand the topic, I thought of talking about growth engineering, which is growth engineering. Data science is a subset of growth engineering. So you apply data science techniques within the growth engineering. And so the today topic is about basing growth engineering to talk about data science, its background and applications, and how you can get into data science. If there are any questions, I know we have a Q&A session, but do type them in. So we in the chat, so we can look at them at the end. So I think that's much preferred. Today's outline, it's going to be like, I'll give a brief introduction about big data and data science. And then we go into growth engineering, also known as growth hacking. This is, which is, I think, loosely termed topics and used by different people in different ways. But I think in today's talk, we are looking at this from a more for data science point of view and how we can sort of engineer growth in specific products. And we're going to talk about Dave McClure's prior metrics, also known as growth funnel, which is a very standard funnel which is used to understand growth in products. When I mean products, it means applications, websites, that anything that you put out there for users to use. So we'll talk about that, and then we talk about growth framework, like how we can sort of have growth engineering set up in your workplace, in your company. So I think that's what I mean by growth framework. And then we talk about data architecture, so how we can sort of set up data science, big data within your growth framework in your organization, and examples. So most of the examples are coming from the work that I did at WSO2, and what we did there. And then we look at Azure Monologues, which is a tool I'm sure most of you must have used at some point. It's a tool provided by Microsoft for you to understand analytics around products, and you can do a lot of things around that. And we'll finally go into A/B testing. Like you might have heard about this. If not, it's a very simple concept, and how we can use that on time with data science, and like how we sort of connect back to growth engineering. I think I'll explain that in today's talk. And then finally, how we can get into data science. So I haven't tested time the talk before, so I may stop early or may go over time. So please excuse that if that happens. So yeah, I think let's get the definitions out of the way. I think big data and data science, it's pretty much hyped up a lot, but these are just definitions. But let's look at them, what they mean. So big data in general, it refers to having large amount of data from different sources, and that comes in a very fast pace, like coming from sensors, for example, smart homes, self-driving cars, where you have a lot of information coming in at rapid pace. And then like product analytics, what I'm going to talk about today, like where you have a lot of users using a product, whether it's like Facebook, whether it's Uber, well, all these companies, you have analytics set up in that way. So you have a lot of data about the users that you need to understand. That's the general term around big data. So it's like people use it very loosely. So I think we shouldn't get caught up too much on the definitions, but just some simple definition which I picked up from internet. And then there's data science. So I think this definition is, I think, quite interesting. It's like it's about like you have a lot of data, and then how we can sort of mine that data to understand meaningful patterns, like meaningful information, unseen patterns, and the most important part is the last bit, how we can make business decisions. Whether you can use the data that you've collected to make business decisions. So this is a very common theme around data science, where you don't necessarily, I mean, 30 to 40% is about the data science techniques, the data, etc. But majority, 60% is about the domain that you are in, whether it's traveling industry, whether it's entertainment. So whatever the domain that you're in, you have to have understanding of the domain to use the data and make sense of the data. So you combine them together and make meaningful insights with the data about the users. That's what general data science means. And also, so these terms, as I said, let's not get too much caught up in these definitions. I will go to an example, which is growth engineering. That's a real life example of data science being used in the industry, and we do that a lot at WSO2 where I worked. So this is the definition I came up with. I think just to explain what growth engineering means. So it's a systematic process of understanding user behavior and conducting scientific experimentation to improve key metrics on the product. So I think it's so what you generally mean here is that you try to understand how users use the product, and then you conduct experiments on the product on the users and how they use the product, and see whether we can improve the key metrics for the. So key metrics depends on the business itself, the product that you have, whether it's a number of people register, that could be a key metric, or now the duration that they have on the product. For example, Facebook would want their users to stay a lot longer on their product for it to be successful. So they might be engineering the product to be much more like sticky. That means that people would stick around a lot. So they'll improve that. So the definition, so key metrics is up to you to decide depending on your business, your product, etc. So that is what growth engineering means. In the marketing domain, they use growth hacking, the term growth hacking as well, but it adds a bit towards acquisition awareness, that side. So growth engineering, we focus a lot on the product, which is also called product-led growth. That means you use the product as a tool to grow rather than advertisements, etc. We use the product itself, the different techniques, features that you have on the product, so that users use the product more, share information about the product more. So that's what growth engineering means. Still, it's a term. Don't worry too much of the definitions. I'll go through what this process entails and like how you can have growth engineering in your product. If you have an app or if you're doing some sort of a startup, this would be really valuable mechanism for you to improve the product. So yeah. So I guess a lot of people would know 𝐃𝐚𝐭𝐚. So this is one of the first vice president at Facebook, and he was head of growth at that point. I think he joined around when the Facebook had like 1 million users, not a lot, and he drove the product to 1 billion users with his growth team. So he recruited a lot of scientists and people who had experience on growth before, from marketing background, science background, etc., to derive create a process where they could engineer the growth of Facebook using experimentation. So he was one of the main reasons that Facebook got to 1 billion, and then the impact that it has right now. Facebook as a company, I think people have divided opinions about it, but from a growth point of view, I think that's a really good example for us to learn from. And if you haven't, check this article. This was on TechCrunch, written in 2013. It has a video as well where 𝐃𝐚𝐭𝐚 gives a talk on how topic goes as how we got 1 billion users, something like that. And it's really cool. I think you can learn a lot from that. So do have a look at it if you want to learn more about growth hacking, growth engineering, so that aspect. So yeah, highly recommend watching that video. So yeah, companies that do growth engineering. So almost all the products in the world, like big companies, do that. So if you are on Netflix, you've been experimented on using Twitter for sure. So like almost all the companies, big companies, use growth engineering. So that means they try and improve their product using the users themselves. So they run experiment like using A/B testing. I will explain a bit later. It's basically means different groups of people would see different versions of the product, and depending on the engagement, they'll decide, okay, feature A or feature B is a much better feature to have more people use the product. So they'll, after a certain point, they'll deploy that feature to be permanent. So that's what these companies do. And I think the Netflix, Spotify, Atlassian they have really good blogs on this work that they do. So they blog their process, etc. Netflix is really heavy on their growth engineering work. And their content is really good. I mean, I've read some of them, and I've learned a lot myself on how to connect experimentation, etc. I think that's the key. And I'll go a bit into detail later on about A/B testing, but like I think Twitter and Facebook, they have like really good examples at the beginning how they use growth engineering. And WSO2, where I worked, we use growth engineering as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. If you are new to this field, do check it out. It has been for a while. It's like it might be named in a different way. A/B testing could be data science itself. But still, if you're doing experimentations on the product, so that's called growth engineering. So this is called, like, person called Dave McClure has created this funnel. Like, it's like different stages in a user's journey. Like if somebody comes to your product and they might we categorize them based on their place in the product, whether it's so for example, acquisition is the first stage. If somebody sees an ad on social media and come to your product, so that's called acquisition. And then activation. So activation generally means they find something useful in your product. For example, let's say if you use like 𝒃𝒈𝒔𝒄𝒉 in Sri Lanka, so you order, let's say, order like your dinner, and you get that, and you really get you become happy about that purchase, like because it's very convenient. You don't have to move anywhere. They bring you the food, and that specific moment is the aha moment. And different products would have different kinds of aha moments that they expect the users to have. Netflix could be there watching a movie. Spotify could be listening to a song. Likewise, so activation is called that. You have a user and they become activated after they pass a specific set of steps. And the goal of growth engineering is generally to actually, first step is like get users to be activated, like pass the threshold, get them quickly as possible to that aha moment in the product. So, and then other things, retention is like, would the users come back? For example, Netflix, they want users to retain for a long period of time. Like, so most of the products, generally business models would want their users to come back. Some may not, but most of it is the case. If it's a matrimonial site, they don't want retention, right? So they don't want their users to come back over and again. That means the product is not working. So likewise, but products like Netflix, they want users to retain. So how we can make them retain? So then that's a more strong user who likes to come back. So the value of users who are in this funnel, who are at the bottom, are the most valuable. Like they're like the more deeper you go, the better the customer. So then you have referrals. So that means you go and talk about your product to other friends. Say, okay, you say Netflix, I'm watching Netflix, you recommend a show on Netflix to another friend, or you get your mother on Netflix, something like that. So that's what's called referral. So that's a different stage. And then revenue. So if you purchase a subscription on Netflix from the free tier to purchase, can you get them to move to a different tier, like which is, let's say, 4K, or I don't know, like different tiers in Netflix that you can get for a higher price. So can you get them to that stage? So this is what the growth funnel means, and different stages depending on your product you can define loosely, and define your data science architecture, your analytics around these steps for you to understand. I'll show an example later on, like a real use case. Then this mapped to a specific use case. Okay, so growth engine framework, I got it from Atlassian blog post. As I told you earlier, they do write a lot of interesting blog posts. So the process is like, you first need to like define metrics, like what sort of things you are tracking, whether it's a user registration, whether it's so this is why I told you it's really important for you to understand your business. So without understanding business, you can't define the metrics. So you need people with domain knowledge, and you need to talk to other people, especially the product team, to understand like what do you want to track, whether it's a registration, user engagement, etc. Right? And then you define metrics and see if you can do a research around these metrics, whether it's a high number of registrations. Can you do that? Like, can you check the number of registrations, and can you plot that? So that's the most simplest thing that you can do. Even for registration, you can check the number of visitors on the website. Can you do that? Can you track the number of users who come to your product, and then see can you do experimentation there? If you change where the sign up button is, the size of it, size of the sign up button, the text which is on the sign up button, if you change that, can you increase the number of registrations? That's a research opportunity. And experimentation idea, you generate these ideas, like what sort of things you can test with the users. And then next step is preparation. You need to talk to your product team, or if you have an engineer in your team, growth team, that's great. You get them to like prepare this new feature, whatever the change that you have in your mind to experiment on, and develop that, and then run the experimentation, and then you'll have the lessons learned. So that means when it worked, that's great. So that's a finding. That means this feature is pretty good. So we need to deploy that. Otherwise, if that didn't work, what can you make out of it? Like, why didn't it work? Were there any other analytics that you can use to understand why it didn't work? And then sort of summarize this and keep a record of it, and then use that to generate new experimentation ideas, or find a different pathway, that because the idea that you had, or the pathway that you had, is not very useful. So yeah, so that's the growth engineering framework. So this can vary depending on the company that you are in, but this, I think, standard that you can use this process, that's like sort of it has a feedback loop, as you can see. So that means there's learning, and the process gets improved with time. But really important thing that I've noticed, like with my experience, it's not the quality of the A/B test what you need to do. It's the frequency of A/B tests. The high number of A/B tests that you can run, the experimentation that you can run on the product, that's a key goal. So yeah. So this is like an architecture that I mean, it's not software architecture, but this is like an overview of how we have set up at analytics, like a high level. So there's a lot of intricate details. So some of our websites, like WSO2 products, we have these analytics integrated. So we use application insights, which is Azure. I hope you can see my mouse. So application insights, so you have the website or the application. You have application insights, which is sort of logging tool that sort of logs your users' interactions on the product, which is similar to Google Analytics, but it gives more data compared to Google Analytics, and have more authority of the data. You can keep the data separately rather than Google Analytics. Google sort of storing the data on behalf of you, and then so you can use that data. So it's stored in Azure Log Monitor. Azure Monitor Log, I think that's what it's called. And using that, you can create dashboards, workbooks. Like these are generally like using the data, you can visualize them on Azure itself, or you can directly access these Azure logs and do quantitative analysis using Python or any other language you prefer separately. So there's an API that you can, so you can directly download, or you can use an API to get this data, which is in Azure logs, and run analytics you want, and generate charts, generate predictions, like if you can create a machine learning model with this data. So there's a lot you can do because you have the raw data. So it's up to you how we define this. So it's generally what it means is like, let's say user goes to the product, click on different buttons, and then they finish a specific task. You have this information step by step as events triggered. So generally, these can be triggered from the front end or from the back end, depending on how you like. So I think the thing with, yeah, from front end, you can generally get a lot of information, like because you can use IP address to get the country where the user is coming from, etc. But if you do it from the back end, the problem is back end, you have to use an SDK. So because of that, you might not be able to get the country unless you push the country to the back end separately and get that information. I think it's a bit tricky with GDPR, etc. You can't do a lot of things. So yeah, there are pros and cons on how you send this information on this pipeline. So do check it out. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, it's a paid service. You have to get because I mean you have to use Azure tools for this. So it's I think it's still affordable, like depending on the size of the product. And yeah, so when you have the results, you can email the results daily using Azure pipeline to the like the C-level people who are making decisions. So you become like the team who provides information about the user, like the health of the product on daily basis. If there are anomalies, you detect them as well. So you can run an anomaly detection algorithm to see, okay, there are specific users who use the product more. Okay, that's a really good thing. So that's an anomaly, right? Like if your product doesn't have a lot of users at the early stage. So you can find users who are more productive on the product. So you can follow up with them, help them to become more productive on the whatever the product that you are selling them. So that's another aspect where you can machine learning to improve user engagement of the product. So likewise, there are a lot of examples. And then there are tools called VW or Google Optimize, which are A/B testing tools. VW is a paid tool. Google Optimize is a free tool. You can set up A/B testing. What I told you earlier, I'll go into A/B testing a bit later. And you can see the results of the test on the dashboard. And then you have Google Analytics. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this. It's another way of tracking user behavior on the product. You can use dashboards, Data Studio to visualize this. And there's another tool called 𝐁𝐢𝐠. So it is a tool that sort of the main use case of the tool is to record what you do on the product. So this means, sorry, did someone speak? Sorry, okay. Sorry, I heard something. So 𝐁𝐢𝐠, what it does is like it records your movements on the product and then create a video. So it doesn't record what you're doing, but it records your actions and create a video out of it. So it's a really interesting tool. Check it out. So we use that as well. So GDPR compliant. You have to like hide sensitive information when you record, just the text and location we can only record. And then use those videos, and you can have surveys as well here, and use that to do a mixed method analysis. That means qualitative analysis plus a quantitative analysis, and use that alongside with the quantitative analysis we did before to generate A/B testing ideas and then run A/B testing. So that's like the whole growth pipeline I described before. So this is how we sort of come to A/B testing ideas, and then understand the health of the product and run experimentation. So yeah, this is like the stack that I use for data science work. General Python, so pandas, matplotlib. So if you're going into machine learning, you can use things like TensorFlow, scikit-learn, etc. So, but for general data science, analytics works, you don't need those stuff unless you're doing like anomaly detection, something around that. Then you have the Azure tech stack, Azure machine learning, like ML workspaces, etc. You can run. Like if you're accessing data lake mainly, you need Azure, something like ML workspace, Gusto, which is Gusto is more like SQL. It be something what Azure Microsoft uses for their all the tools. So it's very straightforward. Azure Log Analytics, what I explained, like running analytics on Google, on products to understand how the users use the product, and Azure Pipelines, which is to run DevOps, like daily email generation that we do, and then a data lake where you want to store all the analytics data after a while. If you want to store them, because this is cheaper. So the difference is log analytics, you can query them very instantaneously and you can access them really fast. Where data lake is cheaper, but it's not very easy to access. Like they're stored as files, so you need to. It's more like archive, so you need to access them separately, which takes a bit of time. So that's the difference. So if you want to store all the data, use something like that, and we use that. And PyCharm as an IDE, and Jupyter if you want to do a quick analysis on something. So likewise, very basic tools, but you don't need a lot of tools to do this stuff. So I think that's the thing. That's a bit of data science. So yeah, cool. And then I think I will sort of explain. So this is a growth funnel. So if you guys remember this one, so this is the real sort of example of a growth funnel. So you can see like so using matplotlib, like a library in Python, you can do this. You can separate it into be like non-organic, organic, whether it's advertisement, advertised users or users who came directly, like people who install the app. Let's say this is an app, and then out of that, 23% sort of sorry. So this is split between these two, I think. So likewise, like the 2,182 sort of people installed unorganic users. And out of that, 495 sort of signed up. So there's a drop here. So likewise, you define the different funnels, and ideally you want more people to like go through the funnel and go to purchase stage. That's what you need to do. That's where the A/B testing comes into play. So yeah. Yeah, and you can sort of differentiate depending on the channels that are coming from, whether it's a paid or an unpaid channel. You can have different pathways, like different colors to understand. So this helps, especially the marketing team, sales team, and also the product team to understand what's the problems. For example, you can see there's a major drop from like here to here from install sign up, and then after viewing product, there's like only 3 people have sort of purchased. So if you find like anomaly, like there's a major drop at a specific point, you can try and do A/B testing there at a specific point to improve that number. So you improve. So that's why you need to talk with like UX designers and then product team, how we can sort of improve the product. So this is a very long conversation. I'm not going to into that much, how to generate like A/B tests, but this is how we use the analytics that you generate from the product to create meaningful impact, right? So, but you also need to be careful, because there are like industry standards to a certain extent to understand. There's always a percentage drop from a specific stage to another, right? Like not everybody who comes to the page is going to sign up. So from different domains, whether it's depending on the domain, mainly you can define like what's a good enough drop off. So if that the threshold is lower than that, then yeah, there's a problem. You have to fix that. Otherwise, even though you try a lot of things, you might not be able to get that sort of improvement that you expect. So there are a few sort of industry standard reports that defines, okay, for software as a service products, this is only 5% of the people who land on the page would sign up. So that's a standard. Likewise, there are for different stages, you have standards. So you can use that in line with the data science sort of analytics that you generated to help the team to improve those odds. So yeah, so this is sort of an overview of Azure monitors, I think monitor logs. So I mentioned earlier, like how we can integrate Azure monitors in your product. But Azure Monitor provides a lot more than that. Like this application logs is that part where you get information from the product. But there are other ways that you can get information, like on Azure Monitor, like using backend sort of APIs, you can get that information. And Azure has multiple other sources that you can get information from. All these are stored in logs, and you can query these logs directly, like using Gusto. That's another way you can do, like similar to SQL, I told you, to get insights very quickly. Like let's say how many people registered from, let's say, 1st of March to like 21st of March. So you can get a number from doing querying. So likewise, depending on how you set up the data, you can get that information using insights, or you can create a dashboard. Like you can look at the registration across time, you can create a chart. So dashboards, workbooks, both a bit similar, and then log analytics, which I told you about before. So log alerts, etc. I think mainly used with the security teams, try and like find if there are anomalies, like some sort of a hike in the usage, etc. So you can have alerts like that. And there are quite a lot of like services. I mean, even I don't know like what all the services that Azure has. So this is like an overview of what Azure logs can do. Do check it out. I think that will be useful. And another point is that it's not just Azure or like Microsoft product that does this kind of thing. Amazon has their own toolset. I mean, I use this mainly because that's what we use at WSO2, and it was like really useful. But still, you still can use Amazon products, Google products, and many other smaller companies provide these. Like mixed panels. So it's not just Azure does this. So just to put it out there, you don't have to get stuck with Azure, but it's very easy to use set of tools and does the job. So something for you to get started if you want. So this is an example, like a screenshot that I grabbed from the internet. So this is what it looks like. So if you go to logs, and you can sort of query here and get like the results here. So you can download the results. So there are limitations when you download, like there's a 50,000 number of like rows that you can download, is like 50,000, something like that. Or there's a limit with the size. So you can't like download everything directly. Ideally, it's best to sort of call it through the API and then run a loop to download if you don't have like longer data set. So yeah, so this is what it looks like. Yeah, depending on different databases that you have, you can code them separately. And so using this Gusto language, you can create like charts within dashboard itself. So within Azure Monitor itself. So that's another feature it has. Anybody, you can do a drag and drop as well, and then create charts for you to understand like what the product is. So yeah. So yeah, this is the last bit. A/B testing. I told you like what is A/B testing. So we used a tool called VW, and they have a definition. So it's like so what A/B testing means is like so there's a definition, randomized experimentation process wherein two or more versions of a variable, let's say web page element, etc., are shown to different segments of website visitors at the same time to determine which version leaves the maximum impact and drives business metrics. So in simple terms, what it means is like people who come to the website are segregated. Like one group would see a specific version A. I think next slide would be helpful for that. So this is how A/B testing works. So let's say 8 people come to the page, 50% of the traffic would see version A, and then 50% of the traffic come to version B. So here the conversion rate is 80%, and this is 15%. So generally it looks this is better. So as long as there are enough people here, you can't like define based on for 8 people. You need to have like to have the right kind of statistical significance. You need to have like significant amount of users to come to a conclusion. Say with a 95% confidence that you can tell that this feature, like feature A, is better than feature B or something like that. To come to a conclusion like that, you need to have a lot of users. So that's a tricky part. But as long as you have that, you can actually say, okay, this new variation is performing better. So another thing is that you shouldn't be changing other things. You have to state everything constant. You are testing 2 variations. So this is like the experimentation 101, like scientific experimentation 101. So you provide these like different like you have the original version, like what you have at the website, and then you have another variation that here example is this header is, let's say this is red, this is blue, like a small variation. But you don't change anything else, like the text occasion, because here's the thing, if you change something else, if that has an effect, you wouldn't know, right? So you want to keep everything else fixed, and only the thing that you're actually testing, you change that. And whatever the tool that you use, VWO, Google Optimize, Optimizely, there's a lot of tools that provide A/B testing facility. It's very easy. Like you create like there are different A/B test types, like split URL, A/B test, and then multivariate testing. So there are different variations, but the general concept is you have let's say 2 URLs, like one, let's say my website.org, that's the URL, that's the original URL, and you have my website.org/b, so that's the second URL. So you set up the tool in a way that if somebody lands on the page, mywebsite.org, 50% would see that one, the other 50% would see with the other URL, like mywebsite.org/b, that URL. So in that way, you will be able to like fairly distribute the users who are coming to the website, and they, based on their interactions, you can come to a conclusion. Okay, variation, what performs better. So this is the simple definition about A/B testing. You might have come across this, but if not, this is the definition. So there's another example, like when you run this, you'll have a chart like this. So this is not related to the previous slide. This is another screen grab. So if you can see, so the orange color, this one, like depending on the days. So so for A/B testing, you need to define conversion. Like that conversion means like, so these are all just terms. What conversion here means, what success looks like for you. Let's say if you're testing to improve the sign up, you actually need to capture the sign up. If you use a sign up, that's success. So likewise, depending on the experiment, that success criteria will change. And so here you can see the original is not performing better, like not a lot of conversions, like less conversions. But this one, the new version, with like sales and offers, it has more conversions, like a lot of people have signed up. So after running this for like very long time, so there are like 87,000 new visitors. So that's really good. That's like more than enough to come to a good conclusion. So, and 0.84, sorry, 8.4 improvement has been done with the new variation. So that there's a clear winner, right? Sorry. So you can conclude that at the end of the day, that new variation is better, and with statistical significance. Like it's accurate. So you can then talk to your engineering team and give these results, and ask them to make the new variation the permanent on the product. So you need to understand statistics to do this, because you need to understand the power, the number of visitors you need to have. So the trick bit is, if you want to have high confidence, you need to show the experiment to a lot of people, right? So that means you need to have a lot of users on the product. So if your product is new, it's very hard to run experimentations, and you shouldn't like reduce the power of reduce too much of the power of your experimentation, like something like 80, 75. I think that's a maximum you should reduce to. Otherwise, your results wouldn't like matter unless like you're doing a very quick check. So that's the thing. So you need to have a lot of users to run experimentation. That's where the big data comes into play. So yeah, and so yeah, you need to like, this is like, apart from like doing this data science stuff, you need to let everyone in, not in your team, but also like other teams, know your results, right? Like whether it's success or not. So what we do at WSO2 is like, whenever we finish experimentation, we write up a summary, like, okay, what was the hypothesis, like what's the experimentation we did, and what are the results, and what's the conclusion. So if there's a winner, okay, this is the conclusion, and there's a winner. If it didn't work, okay, what did we learn? So we small write up, not a lot, but we send out an email to different groups like sales, marketing, other people who have been helping us with the experimentation, so they understand like, okay, there's actually value there, and like what there's a learning. So you need to get everyone on board with regarding A/B testing when it comes to growth engineering, because not a lot of people understand it. So it's very hard to run experimentations if not everybody is on board. So you have to keep communicating well these things. So this is a important distinction. It's not about just doing great work. You have to tell a great story. That's the thing. You have to like let everyone else know about what you guys find. And I think running at high frequency A/B testing, that will help you to like fine tune your product a lot. So yeah. So yeah, I think this is the last slide, like one before the last one. How to get into data science. So big data, like I think the first thing is find a job. I think it's very counterintuitive. Like you can't find a job without any experience. But the trick is, I even if it's a free job, like volunteer work, find something like that that you can get experience. Because if you have to work, you have to learn. There's no workaround. Like there's no trick in that. So that's the best way. Like you have to. So there'll be if you are new to data science, there'll be a struggle learning new things like any other field. But it's not a very hard discipline. It's changing really fast. That I agree. But to get into, it's not a very hard discipline. So find a job. A lot of companies do have a lot of data, and they want to analyze the data, and not everyone knows how to analyze the data. So there's always an opportunity there, even in your current company, like whether there's a chance. Try and get an internship. So that's the best way to get started, and then you understand whether you really like the job or just you like it because there's a buzz around data science. So try it as soon as possible. And then projects. So projects, that means if you can think about a project that in a domain that you like. If, for example, if you like cricket, can you do some analysis on like data sets that you have on ESPN Cricket Info? Likewise, can you do something like that? Visualize something. Can you predict who's going to win the World Cup, like with accurate like past data? So some fun project that you would like. So that's, and document that and write a blog post or vlog, like share the data, share the code as much as possible. So more a digital footprint you have, the better, especially in this space. And then courses, assignments, books, there's a lot. I mean, if you go to Coursera, Udemy, there are a lot of courses and they have assignments. There's a lot of books around like Python, data science, like get started with those. That's the other one. So I want to, like, I can talk a bit more as well, like find someone like who wants to learn as well. So you have like a study buddy. So that will be quite beneficial. So these are general learning tips, not data science tips. And another thing I've noticed, there's quite a lot of YouTube and like content on Twitter as well, and sign up for stuff like Kaggle, data science competition. I think Kaggle is a really good example. I forgot to mention that. So Kaggle is really good. So if you can sign up for that and then do competition, start off with tutorials and do participate, you can win money as well. But on top of it, like it will be a really good experience. And if you look at the past competitions, you'll have the data sets, like algorithms and the discussions. Those are really valuable. So if you get stuck, you can go to those and like sort of learn. So that's the best part. So make sure that you try and like learn through competitions and like taking part. I think that's the most important thing. What else? Yeah, I mean, like those are some of the things. I mean, do reach out to me if you have any other questions regarding this. So yeah, a bit of recap on what we did. So we initially talked about what big data and data science means, like some definitions, and we spoke about growth engineering, growth hacking, and then the growth funnel. And then we spoke about a growth framework, how we can sort of have growth engineering in your product or the company. And then the data architecture, how we can set it up within your product, and then how we can communicate that information to a wider audience, and how we run A/B test. Looked at Azure methodologies, which is like part of the data architecture. And then A/B testing, spoke about A/B testing and how we can run A/B testing, and how we can get into data science, some examples. I mean, not a lot in detail, but that as well. So yeah, this is the end of the talk. Not sure how long I took though, but yeah. So this is how you can reach out to me, Twitter, LinkedIn, email me. Happy to have a conversation if that interests you. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and happy to have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Akshika Wijesundara, for a fruitful session on big data and data science. And also it was an insightful session worth learning about the growth engineering, which was not so topic in the scope of discussion. And I hope our participants must have gained much needed knowledge on to be level up and begin their journey on the fields of big data and data science. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you are free to ask your questions with regards to today's session conducted. And please share your questions for Dr. Akshika Wijesundara in the Slido link shared in the chat as well. So on that note, we are moving on to the first question that has received in our Slido. Yes, and the first question for today is, what are the most needed mathematical skills if someone hopes to enter data science field? Sir, you are unmuted.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. So yeah, I think you don't need to have a lot of math skills if you want to get into data science. Basic statistics knowledge, and that can be learned within like 1 day or 2 days maximum. General statistical knowledge, linear algebra a bit, I think that's needed as well. And then everything else, like more complex math, you can learn like statistics. There's no into it. Like you can go to very complex statistics, and even in maths, those things I think ideally can be learned as you go. So I think just having O-level knowledge, maths knowledge should be fine. You don't need to have like A-level maths knowledge. Then you can like learn as you go. Yeah.
All right, I hope that question is answered. So the second question that we received today is, what opportunities does machine learning bring to a developer?
What opportunities does machine learning bring to a developer? Is it from a career point of view, from a
I guess that's a career point of view.
Okay. Yeah. So developer. So I think machine learning is a bit of a broad topic. I think like what machine learning entails, because itself, you talk about this, the data analytics side, like the model building part, and the model, like the machine learning DevOps part, machine learning ops part. You deploy models and like sort of manage models. So there's another aspect to it. So developer could actually have that background, and sort of having that knowledge, you can sort of move into a career around that. I think still machine learning, still a very, I feel it's a very marketing sort of name it's used. That's the thing. But think about it from like fundamentals, like what it actually brings to you. I think having really good knowledge about like software engineering, and like the maths behind it, I think that's what critical. And then you can have your knowledge. If you have that, whether it's machine learning, big data science, it's very easy to move around. So yeah.
All right, so I think that question was answered. And let's move on to the next question. Can engineering graduate become a data scientist in Sri Lanka without having a CS IT electronic degree?
Yeah, for sure. Like I know a lot of people like who's coming from well, mechatronics. I know a guy like who has done a PhD in machine learning. So likewise, I know a lot of electrical engineers at Moratua does data science work. And as I said, data science is not a very hard field to get into. And it's also look at like what data science means in the company that you're working in. Like everybody's like labeling that they do AI and data science, but it's generally basic work that anybody can do. So if that's the case, be careful, like you'll be wasting your time. So as long as it's like proper engineering, like data science work, so anybody can get into that. And having engineering degree, that means you are good with your maths, and you are good with your analytical skills, etc. So you can easily get into that. So just to add to that, if you want to make sure to make your life easier, what you can do is like have some projects up your sleeve, or do some courses. I mean, not a huge fan of courses, but having that would be really good. That shows your intent, but projects are much preferred on your CV, and you can easily get a job.
All right, so that was a wonderful answer from Dr. Akshika Wijesundara. So moving on to the next question, can we directly start our career in data science field, or do we need to do developer jobs in Python first?
You can directly start. I mean, when I started my first job, I didn't have Python experience. Like I've had some Java experience, but it was different. So no, you can directly start. I mean, I think if you can find a job in the data science field, that's the best place, because you are forced to learn like everything. So it will be a really hard learning curve if you haven't done it. But at the end of the day, 3 months, 6 months down the line, you know everything around data science. So yeah, just go for it.
All right, so moving on to the next question. How someone in data engineering could be aligned with data science?
So I think data engineering is more of a software engineering sort of backend sort of role, right? So in data science, it's be aligned with, I think, like the knowledge of like Python and understanding where data is coming from, the structure of the data, and that information will be helpful. But data science itself is a bit different. Like you have to like do model building, data cleaning. But both of these roles go hand in hand, like complement each other. So I think that's where you have that some edge when it comes to. But I don't think. But I think that's, if you're coming from engineering background, like especially computer science, that's where you have the edge, because you have a data engineering sort of knowledge when it comes to data science. But if somebody else coming from, let's say, social sciences background to do data science, they might not have that background. So it is really vital. I mean, sorry, it's not vital. You have an edge in the job market to having that background. So that's how I see it.
All right, so let's move on to the next question on that note. So what is the path to becoming an independent consultant in data science?
So there could be multiple paths. I mean, like, so I mean, like all my answers I give here today, it's like what mostly based on my experience and what I've done, and there are like thousands of ways that you can get to this field. So even to answer this, I can explain how I got into consulting. So I think mainly because I had a job at WSO, so I have that brand of knowing that information, and WSO in general is a reputed brand. So use that, whatever you have, to talk to people who need different kinds of data related solutions. So I spoke to one of my friends at NUS having a chat, and I spoke, okay, I'd like to get into consulting. And my friend introduced to me one of the professors there, and like she had a lot of data that needs to be sort of cleaned, and they need a data strategy to manage user interactions on their products. So that's where I sort of got the first consulting gig at NUS. So it's likewise talk to a lot of people, and this is why it's important to like put out what you know, like through blogs, videos, just talking to people, just going for random coffees with people and talking about what you know. And you will have the first gig, and then market the, I don't know, market as much as possible what you know. So you'll be branded as a consultant. So that's how you sort of work really hard to get your first gig and do a really good job with it. And then you'll have more jobs following with recommendations, referrals, and that's the best way to go. And yeah, if you want to be a consultant, let me know. I have a lot of work with me that I need to be distributed. Happy to do work together.
All right, so on that note, we are moving on to the next question. How can we start individual projects? What are the steps? I I am a fresher but passionate about data science and artificial intelligence.
So I think if you are quite new, maybe start with a course. I think that might be better. Like go to Coursera or Udemy. It's like taught course on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff, and just follow one of those and do what is told. Like you don't have to like think, just copy exactly what they're doing. So then your sort of brain would create like a mental model of how data science works, how data works, how the infrastructure works. After that, couple of courses, couple of assignments, you will have enough knowledge. So that's the first step. Second thing is pick an area that you like to work on. Whether, I mean, I told like example about cricket, whether it's healthcare, whether it's telecommunication, in domain that you like, very interested, and where you can find data. I mean, data is not easy to find. So a domain that you like to, that you can have access to data. So then conceptualize a project around that and work on it. Talk to someone, like talk to a mentor, talk to someone senior. If you have an idea, to fine tune it to see if it's feasible, and then try and implement that. And as you go along, like communicate it to the world, blog it, tweet it, do whatever you can, so you can get feedback from the rest of the world. Use the power of the internet. So that's my sort of feedback on that question.
All right, so that was a wonderful answer, Dr. Akshika. And so on that note, so I'm moving on to the next question. Do IT companies in Sri Lanka care about certifications like TensorFlow Developer Cert, Azure AI Engineer Associate Cert, Google Professional ML Engineer Cert?
So care is a very subjective word, so it depends. So it has some merit to it that somebody's putting effort to like learn. So I agree. Like, so it also shows that. So if you give a score to it in your like a percentage of your job application, I think I would put in like 20 to 25%. So just because you have so many certifications doesn't mean that you'll get the job, but it will work in your favor. So you generally need to have a, I've seen a lot of people with a lot of certifications without the right kind of work experience, the insight that you need, intuition that is needed to do work. Because if you certifications, so if you follow a course, let's say the data is clean, you have assignments ready, so you do those stuff. So you generally work within a specific scope, but in the real world, it is not the case. Data is not very clean. There's a lot of missing data. Data is not of the same format, a lot of work to be done. So that's what's the missing part. That's why I asked to like do projects. So you cover these areas. I mean, ideally you do a certification and go and apply that somewhere else. And like another thing I forgot to mention is open source work. Do a lot of open source work, like there's a lot of organizations that you can go and contribute. So that's where you can start. Like even if you do a certifications, make sure you commit your code, like it's on GitHub, etc. I'm sorry, I'm just going on a tangent here, but I just want to emphasize it's not a very simple answer. It's not that companies don't care about it, but what I'm saying is it's not sufficient. So it's good that you have those, but also have other like projects, etc. with you, just to complement your CV.
Right, so I think that question is answered so well, and so we have got like a couple of questions. So anyway, moving on to the next question. Do the Kaggle tiers, Kaggle expert, Kaggle master have any support while getting a job in data science in Sri Lanka?
Question is a bit not clear. What do you mean by support here? Like
maybe a qualification wise, or like
yeah, I mean, yeah, Kaggle is, I think, is good. Like it's much better than certifications. Kaggle, if you can get it, it's more hands-on. But also Kaggle has like data is very much clean, so that's a problem. But it is interesting, it's competitive, it's fun to do. So it has better edge compared to certifications. So that's what I've noticed. So, but in the support sense, I don't know what the question means here, but yeah, I mean, if you have Kaggle on your CV, like if you're a Kaggle master, for sure you'll have better chance getting a job compared to anyone with just certifications or even just a degree. So yeah.
All right, so and ladies and gentlemen, since the time is up for today's session, we are moving on to the last question after today's session. And the question is, what is industry expecting from data scientists?
Qualification wise, so I think so it depends on the company. I think qualification wise, I think at least in IT industry, like Sri Lankan IT industry, or even anywhere, you really don't need to have a specific qualification. If you know the data science or of the tool set, you can apply them. That's not a problem. So you need to have a qualification. But if looking at from a qualification point of view, having an engineering degree, having statistics, maths degree would be helpful to get started with data science. And yeah, if you have a PhD, that's even better. I think if you are targeting companies like Meta, Google, Netflix, etc., because data science goes along with A/B testing and experimentation. So that means you need to have some sort of a scientific, background with research. So that's the tricky part. So that's the qualification aspect. To get in the industry, you don't need a qualification, but some companies do adjust your pay according to your qualification. So that's the thing. So if you have a PhD, you start off with a certain level. So those are perks that you might have, but I think from a general point of view, it's more than the qualification, your skills and application with the number of projects you have done, Kaggle competitions you have done. So those kind of things would be valuable. And I think any pragmatic leader or a hiring person would look beyond qualifications. And if you can get the job done, they'll hire you. So that's my sort of viewpoint and intuition about this question.
All right, so on that questions, ladies and gentlemen, we shall conclude our questionnaire session and also the fourth session of the pre-bootcamp of AI-driven Sri Lanka as well. And I'd like to thank Dr. Akshika Wijesundara for taking his time out of his busy schedule to join this evening and being with us for the session. And I hope his knowledge has helped all our young participants to gain much needed help and academic additions with regards to fields of big data and data science. And now we would like to present this token of appreciation on behalf of the organizing committee of AI-driven Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again, sir, for your most valuable time. And now I invite all our participants to turn on their cameras for a quick snapshot to conclude today's session. Please turn on your cameras and we shall take a snapshot within few moments.
I've seen some faces, so that's a good sign.
Yes, indeed, and we can see some of the cameras are turning on. So I invite all our participants to turn on their cameras, and so we can take a snapshot. All right, so we'll take the snapshot in, so I'll count to 3, so you can give your best pose. So in 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, so I think the snapshot has been taken well. So yes, and thank you once again, sir, for your most valuable time. And thank you to all our participants for joining us for today's session. And we hope you gain some much needed pointers and knowledge about today's session about big data and data science. And we hope you enjoy the session, and please join us in future for the upcoming sessions that will be held through AI-driven Sri Lanka. And please follow our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the recordings of previous sessions and also this session as well. And with that, we would like to wish you all a good night and join us next time on the session on mathematics and algorithms of AI. So I'm 𝐁𝒊𝒏𝒈'𝒔 signing off, and good night for all of you.